For years I've been underemployed and have been working at jobs that were beneath me. And I know I'm better than that. I know I'm smarter than that.
I went into corporate America and I found it wasn't for me.
I found that I was lacking, there was a hole.
And it actually showed me who I was.
If I didn't come to college, I probably would be dead.
It was less about I knew exactly where I wanted to be in my life as that I knew I needed something different.
I want better for my life, and I want better for my kids.
Hello, I'm Mike Huckabee, and I believe that education is the key to helping people live a better life around the world. Learn how you can make a difference in your life, your family's life, or someone that you care about by understanding how education is truly a higher calling.
There comes a point in time for so many of us when we realize that our life is not turning out the way we thought it would. All our youthful hopes and dreams seem to have been pushed aside by the tyranny of trying to make a living, raise a family, and cope with the endless stress of daily life in today's world. Sometimes, we feel as if life is passing us by, and we seem to merely exist rather than truly live. Our dreams are dead, or at least appear so far beyond our reach that there's no point in trying anymore. Some call it a dead end, hitting the wall, or you've simply thrown up your hands and said, "Is that all there is?" But this is not all there is. God has so much more in store for us. Jesus came to give us an abundant life, and one of the most vital keys to unlocking this abundance is education.
I was the first male in my entire family lineage to even graduate high school, much less go to college. No one upstream from me as a male had ever finished high school. My parents wanted for me to have a better education than they ever had because they knew it would mean better opportunities. It would mean the ability to do things that they never had the even hope to do. So they drilled it into me as a kid. Get a good education, work hard. Mike Huckabee, former governor of Arkansas, presidential candidate, and television host, has seen firsthand that the power of education is not in job training, but in life training, in opening new opportunities, new possibilities, and giving birth to dreams we didn't even know we had. If we're truly interested in empowering people to get out of poverty and to be able to be independent, stand on their own feet, make their own way, and to live a life of dignity and a life in which they feel a sense of purpose, they have to have two things. First of all, they have to have the academic tools in order to be qualified for any job out there that they might want. But the second thing, they've got to have something going on inside. They've got to have a purpose, a sense that they do matter, that their life is important. I believe that in the context of Christian education, a person can find both. First, they can have the classical education to know the fundamentals of literature or mathematics or science, but more importantly, they have a personal perspective of why that matters and what they can do with it. And a person needs to wake up saying, you know, the rest of the world may not hire me today, but God loves me, so somebody out there must need me because He made me, He created me, He has a purpose for me. I just got to keep looking until I figure out where that perfect match is.
Well, so many people's parents didn't go to college, and so their parents they'll grow up at the home and they'll hear things like, "You'll never go to college, you'll never go to school." And a majority of Americans heard that growing up. And so when they're going through high school years and all that, you know, there's a certain kind of cap in their mind, and that's all they've been told their entire life. People might tell you, you can never go higher, but that's not the Bible, that's not the Lord. The Bible says that we go from glory to glory. And we're trying to inspire that in people's heart to believe that they can go from victory to victory, from glory to glory, from opportunity to opportunity.
Now our finding is that it used to be that people would stay in their same career for many years, perhaps change careers a couple of times in their lifetime. Now the average person is changing careers 7 to 10 times. I'm not talking about changing jobs, I'm talking about actually changing careers because the very thing they trained for no longer exists. And so one of the most important things that we encourage students to think about is how they're getting equipped to manage multiple changes in their lives.
Well, it's probably one of the more exciting things happening today, and that is that people who are at different stages in their life other than the traditional 18 to 22-year-old are deciding to go back to school. They're realizing that what I learned before needs to be enhanced. It may have been perfect at the time, but it wasn't what we need today. They're realizing that, like a cake, there's layer 1, but the one I like has a layer 2, and the one I really like has a layer 3. And so what you need to do is go back and add that education. That's exactly what they're doing.
That's an interesting illustration. Life is like a layer cake. If you don't like the layer you're on, there's always another, deeper, more satisfying layer. And the way to get to that deeper layer is education. Yes, we're talking about going back to school. And before you say anything, no, you're not too old, not too busy, not too slow, not too stressed to continue your education and get your life back on track. For every excuse we have, there are people just like us who have overcome that and more to achieve their dreams.
Education is a pipeline. People are willing to listen to us and hear what we have to say when we offer them something of value. If they're thirsty and we give them water, guess what? They'll listen to us. If they're hungry and we give them food. If they are ignorant and they need education and we provide an education, you know what? They're going to listen to us. If a vast majority of the world's population can't read and write and have virtually no education, if Christians provide an educational platform, then it's also the bridge to present the gospel. But if people are uneducated and we try to present the gospel and say that's all we care about is what happens to you when you die, well, they're kind of worried about what's going to happen to them while they're living. And what they need right now is food, water, and an education. We win the right to tell them about Jesus when we give them something that lets them know that we care about them where they are, not where we hope they're going to be when they die. Because they're thinking that if we don't care about them until they die, that's a little too late for them. They kind of like to see a God with some skin on, some God who shows up in their life right now and gets involved where they are, not where we wish they were.
If I had to say one sentence that education has given me in life, I would say it's given me a place at the table. Whatever table God calls me to, it's given me a place at the table.
Lori Campbell had every excuse in the world to give up on life, to give in to hopelessness, and to simply wallow in self-pity for the rest of her life. But she didn't. She made it through a childhood of abuse, an adulthood of poverty and homelessness by finishing her education. She turned her life around and is now making an incredible impact as a teacher in the lives of hundreds of kids. But before she was named one of the top teachers of the year by Regis and Kelly, she was just Lori. Recently, she went back to her old elementary school, and the experience brought back disturbing memories of the past.
My house that I grew up in is a couple of blocks away, and the one that I lived in with my stepdad. And while we were there, he didn't allow my mom to work or drive or anything, and we had 6 kids, and we didn't have any money. And so the 4 of us girls kind of shared clothes, and we washed our clothes. I had, in 5th grade, which was my hardest year, I had 2 skirts, a brown one and a blue one that I used to alternate. And we washed them and hung them out on the clothesline because we didn't have a dryer. And the kids were really, really cruel and bullied us a lot. Probably the worst memory that I have was I had this knot in my hair. You know, we didn't have socks or toothbrushes or hairbrushes or stuff like that. And I had this knot in the back of my hair that was like the whole back of my head. And I had it for weeks. And this one day before school, my stepdad took the barbecue brush, the wire thing that you clean the barbecue with, the grill. And he said if I had that knot in my hair when I came back, when he got home from work, that he was going to brush it out with that. And so I was 9 years old, and I thought I was going to die that day after school.
Since a dysfunctional childhood is all Lori knew, she grew up to become a dysfunctional adult, repeating the same pattern of poverty, hopelessness, and abuse. As a young woman, she found herself a single mother, pregnant with her 2nd child, and living in a beat-up old car on the dangerous streets of the city.
We were homeless here behind a building and dumpsters, and alleyways and all that kind of stuff. When we first moved into our 1969 Chevy Chevelle, we thought it was going to be just for a couple weekends, and it turned into over a year, 15 months in the car. And we learned that it's against the law to be homeless, so we would sleep in the car at night, and the police would pound on the window or shine in their flashlights and get out of the car. And I was pregnant, and we would get out of the car, and they would search the car and pull everything we owned out of the trunk, and it was just really humiliating. And they would just say, you know, it's against the law to sleep in your car, so keep it moving. And so then after that, we would act like we were just at the park having a picnic, and we accidentally fell asleep, but actually the point was to fall asleep, and then keep driving around at night. And it was really hard, and people looked down on us a lot. And the hospital that I was going to, the doctor's office that I went to at the time, every single appointment to the very end, they were offering me an abortion. Every single time I went in for prenatal care, because, you know, you really can't take care of this baby. You know, you're living in the car, and, you know, just that made her unworthy of life. It made me unworthy of being a mom, and those kind of things were really tough, but we got through it.
Then, Lori made a decision that changed everything. In spite of the shame and the pain and the hopelessness, the girl who had nothing got the one thing she needed most to succeed in life. She got an education.
I was driving down Mission Boulevard one day, and God spoke to me and said, go to school and be a teacher. And I was like, what? That's crazy. Because I was not a good student in school, and I graduated with a 1.067 GPA, and never thought about going to school. I was fasting and praying that God would show me if this was definitely His plan for my life. And I think it was the third day of my fast. I was in the parking lot, and I was listening to the Christian radio station. And this commercial came on, and it said, has God called you to go to school, but you just can't afford it? I was like, what? Are you serious? Is this your answer? Because I get crazy answers like that every time I fast. It's so fun. But anyway, so then I said, okay, God, if this is what you want me to do, then I'll enter this contest. And it was so far outside of my comfort zone. Every bit of it, every part of it. And I entered the contest and ended up winning $16,000 to go to Patton. I was the first runner-up. It was amazing. And from that point on, I had no doubt that God was calling me to go to college, and I had no doubt that I could accomplish anything that He set before me, and it just gave me so much strength and power and courage to just do whatever task came before me in college, and I just plowed through and just did it. And then I ended up staying at Patton and getting my master's degree, and then staying there and getting my teaching credential, and now I teach there, so that was amazing. Definitely God's changing my life.
The homeless single mother of two understood the power of an education to change her life. It wasn't easy. It wasn't fun. It took hard work and commitment, but she did it.
I admire her. I look up to Mrs. Campbell, and I'm trying for my RN, and it's just a really great inspiration to have somebody like that in my life. You know, she gives me hope.
With all the extraordinary opportunities before her, Lori decided to become a teacher, and remembering the pain and humiliation of her own childhood, she declined a job at an affluent school district, choosing instead to serve in one of the most hard-hit, low-income sections of the city, reaching out to children who are growing up just like she did.
I always knew that I wanted to teach in a low socioeconomic area because I was low socioeconomic when I was a kid, and I had a lot of food issues and a lot of issues with want and need. A lot of the kids are from broken families, and a lot of the students that I've taught over the past 7 years have had abandonment issues. That seems to be really strong. A lot of absent dads, some absent mothers, and just really struggling left behind parents. And the kids don't have a lot of time with their parents because their parents are sometimes working 2 jobs or often working nights, and so they're sleeping during the day, or they're going to work right when their children get home from school. And so a lot of the kids feel unloved, they feel undervalued, they feel, and it's not their parents' fault, it's just that those kind of abandonment and rejection issues are only cured by spending time with somebody. And these parents are trying to keep a roof over their heads, and they're trying to keep food on the table and keep clothes on their backs, and so a lot of the kids go through that.
Education changed Lori's life, and she's now changing the lives of other at-risk children, both scholastically and spiritually. She takes a personal interest in the lives of each of her children, investing her life into them in the classroom and in the community.
I don't call my kids to the carpet and preach about Jesus, obviously, but if they ask me questions, I share my faith with them, and of course a lot of the kids that go to church with me share their faith with each other, and it's just been an incredible journey.
Pursuing an education in spite of the overwhelming difficulties she faced lifted Lori out of a life spent in the shadows of society and into a place of honor, esteem, and immense satisfaction. Now her life is a lighthouse of hope and inspiration to everyone around her. In her classroom, in her community, in her church.
We need more teachers like her, actually. She's awesome. She's really good with the kids. She does that extra all the time, you know, extending her arm as far as it can go.
My favorite thing is that she be nice to me and I be nice back. She's like the best teacher, and I really like her.
She started taking my son to church. My son loves church. I love that he goes with her. I see myself probably eventually going with her. You know, sooner or later I will. Yeah.
The hopeless girl, who through her circumstances and environment was doomed to failure, found hope and empowerment in a Christian education.
Education has given me purpose and focus and strength. It's opened a ton of doors for me. It's given me, if I had to say one sentence that education has given me in life, I would say it's given me a place at the table. Whatever table God calls me to, it's given me a place at the table.
Inspiring story? Yes. But as Lori Campbell demonstrated, this kind of inspiration takes hard work, commitment, and one other vital element: a choice. No matter what our age or circumstance, change only comes when we step up and choose to change. So let's break it down. Everything we've just seen can be summarized this way. To get the kind of life you never had requires you to do something you've never done. And that something starts with education. Not just any education, but an education that builds both your mind and your spirit. A Christian education at a Christian college or university. Part-time or full-time, on campus or online. You can tailor an approach that fits your lifestyle and circumstances.
My own wife left college after she and I had our first year because we got married and she needed to help work to get me through. And then the kids came along, and so she put off her education. When she was 45 years old, my wife went back to school, and a lot of the classes that she took online. Classes that she would never have been able to have taken had it meant going down to a university campus 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 10 until 11:30, and going to class.
One of the things that excites me so much about the value of online education are for those people who, for whatever reasons, are limited to having access to the typical residential Christian college. And so the advent of distributed education, as we call it, online education, really has made it possible for many students, traditional college students, who can afford to come to an expensive campus to get an education, and particularly for those adults who God is switching their career calling to have an opportunity to get it in that way.
And I'll tell you something, it's not just about getting a job. It's about the sense of expanding one's own personal mind and spirit. But if a person is in a vocation, it's about opening up incredible opportunities. The difference in earning potential from a person who has a college degree and one who doesn't is somewhere in the range of $34,000 to $58,000 a year. So it's pretty dramatic. Over a lifetime, it's a multi-million-dollar decision to get a college degree versus not getting the college degree.
Jesus said, "I have come that they may have life, and that they may have it more abundantly." Are you a late bloomer? No matter how old we might be, no matter what our circumstance, we can bloom and grow and step into a satisfying, fulfilling life if we choose to. Yes, it may be difficult. It will certainly be challenging. Only we can decide whether we want to do nothing and stay where we are, or equip ourselves with the tools we need to step out into a new life. Stay with us now for a few life-changing moments with Dr. Mark Rutland, president of Oral Roberts University. Dr. Rutland is a distinguished educator, leader, and businessman who firmly believes that the active pursuit of intellectual and spiritual awakening is central to becoming all that God has created us to be.
As the president of a university, I am surrounded by young people, young adults whose lives are ahead of them, adults who are returning to do education and to take a new step with their career and their lives, and even seniors who have decided that they want to take the risk on late life education. And do you know what always energizes me about it? Is the possibility of what they're going to do with that education. I speak to thousands of college students every week, and I feel that that auditorium is crowded, not just with their lives, but with all the people that they'll marry, all the children they'll raise, all the Fortune 500 companies that they'll run, all the employees that they'll ever direct, all the movies that they'll ever make, all of the lives that they're touched are all in that auditorium every time I speak. I feel that the magnified impact of every one of those speaking engagements goes into generations ahead, even to the third and fourth generation. That's what excites me about education, is that we're not just getting people a degree. That's a short-term goal. We're preparing people to change the world that they live in. Everything that God adds to your resume, every skill, every ability, every experience that He adds to your life makes you more capable, more useful in His dramatic plan. If there's one thing that I could say to every young person in America today, is that there's a reason you were born you and not a chair. God has a plan for your life, and preparation for that plan is absolutely indispensable. The Son of God, even Messiah Himself, Jesus, waited 30 years of preparation for 3 years of ministry. Now, your education probably isn't going to take you 30 years, and at the end of it, nobody's going to crucify you. But you have a great mission, a great ministry, and the years that you spend learning, gaining, growing, those can be some of the most important years of your life. The people that you'll meet, the contacts that you'll make, the relationships that you'll build, and the lives that you'll rub up against. Don't just go to class. Don't just gain the material. Gain life. Learn all that those professors have to say. Learn from your other students. Go to a university like ORU that has a wide diversity of students and races and nations and cultures. Attend things. Go to the opera. Go to the basketball games. Let your education stretch your life so that when the opportunity comes for you to actually put into practice everything that you've learned, all that is rubbed off on your life, all that you've developed, the skills, the abilities, that you're ready to perform at a level of excellence that will give God glory. I believe that God has called us to a level of excellence that we can compete in any area of life. Every person has a world. Jesus said, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. But every person has a world. There's a theater world. There's a world of politics. There's a world of high finance. There's a world of banking. And into each of those worlds, God wants to send people who are prepared, who have diligently applied themselves to learn their professional ability, who have disciplined themselves to perform at high quality, under stress, and in difficult times. And their lives become the living testimony of the power of God in those worlds. God has a world where He wants you to live, and He wants you to learn now to prepare yourself to enter into that world with success. Why shouldn't the best doctors be educated in Christian environment? Why shouldn't the greatest leaders learn those leadership skills and hone them to a razor's edge in the context of an educational experience that's dedicated to God? Why shouldn't the very best people who produce movies and television and the best musical performers, why shouldn't they be the Christians? Why shouldn't they be the ones who perform at a level of such excellence that the world has to sit up and take notice? So I go back to that experience of speaking in the auditorium at Oral Roberts University, chapel after chapel, week after week, the thousands of young lives who lean forward in their chairs and listen for a word for them. And I say to myself, I'm not just speaking to them. I'm speaking to their future spouses, their children, their grandchildren, and to all the lives in all the worlds that they'll touch. Discipline yourself, pay the price, sacrifice, and be ready, because God has a world for you to change.
College is not for me. And that's the average perception that people have in America, that dream either died with age, that dream either died with mistakes they've made in their life, that dream died with limited resources. And if there was just a vehicle like this show, a vehicle and an opportunity for people to say, hey, I can rebuild my life, I can start over again.
If there is a gap between what I am and what I would like to be, or if there's a gap between what I have to deliver and what's needed out there, that's where education comes in.
There's a lot of reasons why it makes sense to go back to school. We'll start out with the most simple. It could be a personal goal. Maybe it's something that you've always wanted to do. Maybe your parents have wanted to see you pursue your education. Perhaps you have children in your home and you want to set the example for them. It's difficult to ask your kids to do something that you're not willing to do.
I learned how to work. I learned how to be efficient. I learned how to multitask before there was such a term as multitasking. And that served me well. God was good to me, allowing me to be in a position where I didn't have parents who could write the big check and pay for everything.
We need to come alongside people and say, what is your purpose? Why do you want higher education? And then we're duty-bound to step up, help them move in that direction. So education without a purpose is dead. Education with a purpose is everything.
The most effective Christian is the one who has a Bible in one hand and the newspaper in the other. That you know just as much about the way the world thinks as you know what the Bible says about the way the world should think.
You're going to be busy and get your degree, or you're going to be busy and not get your degree. But you're always going to be busy. Don't think in 2 years you're not going to find something to fill your time with. You know, there's always going to be excuses.
So for me, one of the great adventures of this business of higher education, post-secondary education, and particularly Christian higher education, is to do what many colleges, even secular institutions, have as their main motto. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free.
Excuses should not be a barrier, not when there's a wonderful way now through TBN and the partners that are working together to walk through America step by step to show them that they can reach their ultimate dream, they can go higher, and they can believe in great things for their life still.
Don't let your heart be troubled. If you or someone you love needs a better career, one with meaningful purpose, Ministry.com would like to help you find a scholarship to a school that best fits your goals. We believe there is victory in furthering your education to find a job with a purpose. If you or a loved one is out of work or is graduating from high school, Ministry.com would like to help you. Contact Ministry.com today to review your options to help your family live a better life.